Hi there. I'm Susan Caruso, the founding director of Sunflower Creative Arts in Delray Beach. We are in a lovely garden today, and you are listening to the Sunflower Bridge podcast, where we talk about being with children. So take a nice breath. Let it out. And smile. I'm smiling because I have my dear friend, Lora McCoy, here. And on the celebration of our 30th anniversary, I thought it would be fun for Lora and I to talk about the very beginnings of Sunflower, which I could not have imagined at all that we would be sitting here like this in 30 years.
It's a long, long time ago.
So Sunflower was not fully formed in anybody's imagination. It really has grown. But way, way back in 1991, 92, well, 90, not,
I think we should go back further.
Okay, all right. Where do you want to start?
We should go back to 1983.
1983, okay.
In 1983, I was 6 months pregnant, and I didn't know anybody who had babies or little children or anything. And I was in my mid-30s, and I decided I needed to learn something. So the first thing I did was do a little research and read a little bit about la leche and breastfeeding. And I wanted to find a la leche meeting, and I did find one locally. And when I went to that meeting, Susan was the hosting parent, the hosting mother.
I wasn't the leader. No, I was not a leader yet.
No.
That's true. Yes.
And so I met her, and it was so interesting, the meeting, that I went back to every meeting after that until my children, because I ended up with 2 daughters, were toddlers. And Susan and I became very, very fast friends pretty soon after that very first meeting. I think the thing that tied us together was sourdough, as a matter of fact.
Herman, the sourdough starter. Yeah, I remember. That was in my apartment in Pompano. I was in a little apartment in Pompano. Angelo was really small.
Angelo was toddling around in diapers.
Right. Yeah. He was 2-ish. I wasn't a La Leche League leader yet, and I remember at that meeting just realizing, oh, I like her. She's my sister. I want to be with her somehow.
So after a couple of meetings, I grew Herman because the Miami Herald had a recipe for Herman, and everybody was making sourdough, and I wanted to grow Herman, but once I had Herman, I really had no interest in doing too much with Herman. So I thought, I'll give Susan some of Herman. So I brought Susan Herman, and it was like I brought her the gift from the gods. She was so happy. So then we knew we were soul sisters. So our friendship really all started with Herman. It became entrenched with Herman. Susan had 1 child at that time, that little toddler, Angelo, in diapers. And then I had a daughter. And from there, life just kind of went on. And then Susan had a second child, Stephen, and then I had a second daughter named Dylan, and we just kind of grew together with lots of other friends. We had a lot of support group from other friends, and when those children, not my oldest one, I'm not sure exactly Susan was working a multitude of jobs. Susan is a musician. And she was working a lot of music sessions at existing preschools and birthday parties. And we did Circle of Song, which was our big sing-along group. Yeah. And a group of our friends decided that they would like a kind of a preschool. And we didn't care for the offerings that were local. We weren't of the same mindset. So we had a meeting one night, all of us, husbands, wives. I remember sitting in a circle on the floor. I'm not sure whose house we were in. And we said to Susan, we think that you should start a preschool. And Susan said, whoa, 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 whoa. And he said, no, we've talked about it, without her, of course. And we think that this will work. We think it's a very good idea. She required quite a bit of coaxing.
Yeah, I remember being really surprised.
Petrified.
Like petrified, so much so that I think I froze all that in my memory. Just, when you just said I got the feeling of like, what? You want me to do what? I don't.
We said, young children, you're like a Pied Piper. She's always been a Pied Piper with young children. So we said, it's going to work. And we knew that none of us wanted to have 10, 15 kids, so we knew that she was the best shot. And we just said, you can do this, Susan, you can do it. And then we kind of gave her some idea on numbers and how it might be lucrative and it might be better than running all over town doing music classes in preschool she didn't like. She'd always come back and say, they were doing this and they were doing that and they didn't talk right to the kids. And I said, so this is your chance, So then from there we moved, and then I think you found the church, didn't you?
Right, I did. And I remember thinking there's no way that I can do it. I remember you talking to me a lot and just building me up to the point where, okay, I guess I can do this. And you were very, very systematic. Because of this and because of this and because of this, you can do this. And so, then I realized I needed to stay in one spot. I was traveling down to Broward and all over Palm Beach County. I was in a Jewish day school, and I couldn't really support my family. I couldn't support my kids, and so I needed to have a single location.
You were a single mom at this time, right?
Right. I think it was 91 that kind of started to happen, and so that's exactly when it was. Yeah. Everybody had done. I did mommy and me classes, so. And all of my friends did those with me. And we used to do sing-alongs at the Better Bear, a little independent children's bookstore. So I was cobbling together,
too many gig jobs.
Yeah. And did Pine Tree camps at Lynn University as well.
That's right.
So I was doing all that. But then it was like, let's settle into one spot. And I'm sure you talked me into that. And, and so then once we found a location where I could be still and have people come to me, then it made it much better as far as, me being able to afford to even do that.
First space was just one room, wasn't it? When we started?
Yeah, when we started.
In the UU church in Boca Raton, they rented us, Susan, one room.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember. It had a little rainbow in it. It was like the nursery for the church.
That was right.
And we actually had Circle. We continued with Circle of Song, and we got to use the fellowship hall for that. But we had one small room, and it started out with 8 kids.
8. That's right.
And
although my youngest daughter was part of that very first group.
Right.
Yeah, she was like the oldest in that very first group.
Yeah, she and Sarah were the oldest ones.
Yeah.
And it was just me teaching, and I had parent helpers because I really based the program on Bev Boss's community preschool in Roseville, California, and it was a parent cooperative. And there are lots of parent cooperatives in California and other parts of the country at that point, and now there's very few.
Yeah.
And so we started
we
with
had kind of a different philosophy about how children should be treated, small children, big children, small children. And we felt that the parent co-op would allow us to guide other people that weren't part of our immediate group in this kind of not unusual, but not the
alternative for the day.
Philosophy. Simple, very simple philosophy. It's really just built on respect for the child.
I remember so clearly the two of us talking. We kind of hashed it out and so what is the basis? What is the first thing? Yeah. And we came, way back then, and respect for the individual is one of our pillars, and the first pillar. And so we really whittled away and said, if you don't have respect, you can't have love. If you don't, and just figured that's it. That's the basis.
And I had been doing parenting classes with Dinkmeyer, And I was so grounded in that whole philosophy that it just came so easy to, want to share that.
What was Dinkmeyer's parenting? What was it called?
It was the STEP program.
Right.
Systematic
Training for effective parenting. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was absolutely great. It was, 100% positive. And I was part of his test group on the book that they wrote. So I learned so much directly from him. And it was
based on Hein Gannat. It was based on Hein Gannat.
How to
talk so kids will listen so kids will talk. And that's Hein Gannat. Hein Gannat was the grandfather. And Dinkmeyer, along with, there's another psychologist.
Dreifer, I can't quite remember his name. Started
right.
The one before.
Mm-hmm. There were a few people that were heading in that direction, but I really think that we can credit Hein Gannat with a gentler guy, a gentler, kinder, more respectful way of being with children.
How do you spell
Ginnott?
Yeah, I think his books are still available.
Oh yeah, no, it's required reading for all my teachers between parent and child.
And this is not about preschools, but it's about relationships with children. That's all. How to talk to children, how to be with children, how to care about children. As far as the preschool, now a little bit about Bev Boss.
It's so interesting because I'm just realizing that, with me being a parent, I knew what not to do, but I didn't know what to do because I didn't have that model. And so when it came to preschool, I was in many different preschools and I knew what not to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do until you introduced me to Bev Boss. And I had to do, I was in a Jewish day school. I was teaching Mommy and Me, and I was doing music classes for all of the kids in the school. And they had gotten a flyer, professional development down in Miami. We need to send somebody for this. And it was Bev Boss. Laura had just given me Bev Boss's book.
I went to Minnesota, where my husband is from, to spend a week with his sister. And we took, I had 2 children now. One of them was maybe almost 5. And the other one is 5 years older, so she was 10. So we took them to the Science Museum in Minneapolis. And in the store, after we went through the museum, I was just looking at books, and I found Bev Boss's books. Please Don't Move Your Muffin Tin.
It was the first one, maybe before the basics. Maybe that was out too.
That was it. Yeah,
because it was
basics.
Don't Move the Muffin Tins was the first one, and it really was Bev Boss exploring how she wanted to be.
And I didn't know anything,
teacher.
who she was or anything about it, but I just flipped through the book in the store and I said, I got a feeling about this. So I bought both books, and I didn't really read them. I just said to Susan, read these. I got a feeling you're going to like these.
And I can't remember, I think that you gave me the books and I had them. I hadn't really looked at it. I got the flyer and I said, Bev Boss, wait, Laura just gave me books by Bev Boss.
Yeah.
And you all may know the story that, Bev Boss is my soul sister. Sadly, she died a few years ago, but her preschool was the model for Sunflower's Seedlings program. And
now people say, well, what would Susan do? But we remember when they say, what would Bev do?
Yeah, and all across the country, Bev Boss did seed lots and lots of wonderful preschool programs and, trained teachers. So lots of people that are out there are coming from her seed, from her wonderful sunflower seed. So we started in one room with 8 kids, and we had one parent helper. And the image that I have in my mind is the kids had put yarn all in every corner of the room. And I had a dad, and this was very unusual for those days back in 92, to have a dad be so involved with a child's early education. But he was the helper. It was Max Berkowitz's dad. Oh. And he was crawling underneath, he said, hey, how can I get over here? And the kids say, you have to crawl through. And it was like a spider web. And of course, that still happens today with tape and with yarn and with string. And so it was a wonderful first year. Over that year, the numbers grew. and we doubled it. By the end of the year, I think that we had 16 children. And so I knew that this is more than I can do. We were only doing 2 or 3 mornings a week at that point. And so I knew that I needed to have help. I needed to have another teacher. But who's the other teacher that I can have that has the same philosophy as I do and all of that? And it was only Shelley Zaks, who was our good friend. She was in our group. She had a master's in education and special education
in Waldorf.
Right.
Education.
Yes, definitely. And so I invited Shelley to be on board as the second ever seedlings teacher.
I was working.
And you also.
That's why I wasn't there.
The kind of cool thing is that my group, we did have a lot of educators and innovative educators. And Lora led the group with, she would bring all of the books. So we had our
library.
Yeah, you did. You turned us on to not only cooking things, but all the educational things. And we talked philosophy and thought about it and really, had huge discussions. We'd meet at the park every day, a whole big group of us. And
I was working in a very convenient place. I was working in my husband's business. So I was able to take hours off at a time if I wanted.
Yeah, but you had many years of teaching under your belt, too.
Yeah, I taught before having children. I had a teaching degree also. But
so
I kind of was in the same place you were. I knew what I didn't want to do. I knew what I didn't like, from being in the school system.
Yeah. Yeah, and back then, some teachers would look at back in the 80s and the 90s as being like the dream time compared to where we are now, with the academics being pushed to so young, and teachers majorly stressed in all the ways.
Susan is petting my dog in case this is coming across as strange arm movements. I have a Rottweiler standing next to her.
Abby's here. So we had the luxury of time to really talk about it and solidify how the parents that we wanted to be. And that's what we hope to give the parents that are part of the Sunflower programs. We want to support you in following your heart. And we did that for ourselves. And we had that time to really feel solid about how we felt about play, how we felt about child-directed, child-led play, about the language to use. So everything, it was really developed at that time.
It kept evolving. And I always think about something that changed in Sunflower for the better. In the beginning, we didn't really know what to do with the kids all the time. We weren't know, so do you remember when we did all the holidays?
Oh, yes. Yes. We always,
all these activities.
We were very play, nature, arts-based, always. But in the beginning, we all, and we figured it out after a year or two.
Yeah, we would take us too long.
Yeah, but we would do
structured holidays,
Hanukkah. We would do Mexican Christmas. We would do Santa Lucia Day.
We thought it afforded us a structured activity and an artwork thing we do. And I moved in 1995 up to Massachusetts. When I left, activities were still being done. And after a year or two, I asked Susan about it, and she said, we don't do those anymore. The kids can't be bothered with us. They don't want to stop and do what we want. So we just let them be,
So, and that's the key thing about any program. I think that it needs to evolve, and we've evolved. We're continuously evolving.
Still evolving. It's only a few years ago that you took the chairs away from the table.
This is true. About 5 years ago.
Yeah. 5 years ago, and we've been around now for 30 years, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it took 25 years for us to figure out.
Get rid of the chairs.
They don't want to sit at the table. They want to stand at the table. So, okay, get rid of the chairs.
And the movement and the way way they have access to things. And then you got under the table. So, and that was an experiment. We had to convince other teachers that was a good thing to do.
And, you watch it, and you say, wow, it worked. This works.
And we always ask the question, why are we doing this? And as parents, of course, we ask these questions too. Who is this serving? And with all those holidays, we found that It was us. It was the adults. We wanted to do
were having
it.
a good time.
But they were the worst days for the kids. People were getting hurt and they were crying and they were miserable. And so we just got back to play. And so the things that we do still have are Spaghetti Day, where you swim in spaghetti, and Pajama Days, where they get to be in their pajamas, and Bridging Day, our Bridging Day. So we do have, and we do
None
birthdays.
of those were original.
No, and we do birthday, but our birthdays are very original.
okay.
And our Bridging Day is pretty original too, but the general idea of it,
But I mean, they weren't original till the first year or the second year or the third year, were they? They took a little bit of time.
birthdays were always. Ice Castle was always
How
from
about
that very
Spaghetti
first year.
Day?
Spaghetti Day took a little bit of time, but it was pretty early on, and Pajama Day was pretty early on too.
Maybe you should say what Spaghetti Day is about.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And we always get spaghetti really on sale, or spaghetti that wouldn't be sold anyway. But it's a ridiculously fun thing to do. What we do is we have the parents make lots of pounds of spaghetti. I'm talking, 3 or 4 pounds each. So we have, 20, 30, 40 pounds of spaghetti. And the kids wear their bathing suits, and the parents make the spaghetti and put just a little bit of canola oil or corn oil or something like that in it, and put it in a bag and bring it in the morning of Spaghetti Day. And the first thing that we do is we put the kids in the pool, in pools. So
Kiddie pools.
Kiddie pools, plastic kiddie pools. We put the kids in the pools, and we go through the rules, which is, not to, can you eat the spaghetti? No, why not? Because we're sitting in it. It's dirty. And we have a different shaped pasta that we feed to them like little birdies. Put them in a cup, and then they can have that. And so we put the kids in the pool. Then we put the spaghetti on top of the kids, just with the oil on it. And there's lots of squealing. You, of course, can choose to do that or not to do it. Some kids don't want to have any
Kids have
part
their
of it.
clothes on?
They have bathing suits on.
Bathing suits.
Yeah,
Okay.
not shoes. The shoes are off. And then after a while of playing in the spaghetti like that, we add water. And so then it's water.
Swimming in the spaghetti.
Literally swimming in spaghetti. And we've done it a lot of different ways, but that's how we're doing it now. And then they move, when they're done swimming in the spaghetti, they move to a soapy pool.
pool.
And so that's really fun. So yeah,
It's a highlight of the year for the kids.
we didn't do it during COVID, and they were really sad. Last year was the first year we went back to actually doing that. So, so it's evolved to better meet the needs of the children.
Yeah.
And we do always ask that question, why are we doing this? And especially moving.
Or why aren't we?
Yeah.
That's
it's true.
another one. Why aren't we doing this,
Mm-hmm. And the parents have made suggestions, and teachers come and they have suggestions. Mainly it's the kids that we're following. We see what it is that they need.
When we first started, we were a small group of 8, and we grow slowly. We never divided the ages, did we?
No, it was always, and I insisted on that it be a mixed age grouping.
Kind of a Montessori type approach.
3, 4, 5-year-olds is what we wanted to have. And a mix of genders as well.
Yeah, mix of genders, mix of ages. We also didn't, as we grew, now you have more people, more adults involved. We never assigned groups or classes. The kids are always able to move together. And they move now and present, well, even going back, they move inside and outside as they choose. It's Florida. I went to Massachusetts. We couldn't do this as easily. But Florida, but the adults stayed pretty much in one place or the other. So they would move outside to where those adults were, inside to where those adults were, but no one ever navigates them. They
Right.
navigate
It's not like a
themselves.
teacher has a group
Yeah.
of kids that they're responsible for. All the teachers, and we have 4 teachers to 25 kids. It didn't take too long for us to start getting those numbers.
Yeah.
And another thing that we did early on is we offered lots of different schedules when we were at the church. And we
That
found
was a change too, though.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we let the parents kind of choose what they wanted to do, and some parents wanted to do 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Other parents wanted to do 2 days, Tuesday, Thursday. Remember this? And it took us a while, and we said, this isn't really working for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Parents like that. They like the idea of, spreading it out and have something to do every other day kind of thing. But the kids didn't handle it so well.
No, they need consecutive days.
Yeah,
they want to
so
get
much
up
better.
because the play continues. So you're right. I had forgotten.
That was a big change, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we thought about it, we talked about it, and we kept saying, we thought, well, maybe the parents won't come if we don't let them have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then we got to the point where we said, it's so much better for the kids, because we had some kids that were doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We didn't have
Monday.
kids. Yeah.
Right.
And we had some kids doing 5 days.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they benefited so much from the continuity of it that we said, if the parents don't want to be with us because they can't split the days, then they have to find somewhere else to go, because our purpose is to serve the needs of the kids.
Yeah.
What an interesting change.
Mm-hmm. Then and this was still in the early years.
Yeah.
Really in the early years with us finding our way. And it was a very alternative program. So parents would search us out. And it was especially hard even to search us out because we were back behind a church.
And there was no internet.
Right.
It was a little difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And we really had no guides to go by in regards to this, like the continuity of the days.
We were making our own because Beth Voss was doing it that same way. But we talked about it a lot and said, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Who is this serving?
Yeah.
And we decided, again, lots of times we decide that if it's serving the adults, then that's not where we are. That's not what we need to do. We need to meet the needs of the children. And so those consecutive days. And there was at one point at the church that we didn't offer anything except for 3 mornings. And we never offered afternoons. It was just 3 mornings. And then we did other programs on Mondays and Fridays.
It was kind of like, it followed a pattern with La Leche League, too. Because in La Leche League, everybody does their meetings in the morning. And do you remember way back we said, what about all of these parents that are working?
Right, because our La Leche League...
Who's serving their needs? Mm-hmm. So we started running the La Leche League meetings at night.
It's true. Yeah, because that was, at that time, in the, the mid-'80s, there and early 90s, there was a big shift. A lot more people, because of the economy, a lot more women were going back to work. And we were one of the few, we were probably the only group in South Florida that was doing night meetings and really supporting whatever it was that the parents wanted. So I think that that's true, that we've been real focused on the children at Sunflower and real focused on what the parents need as well. And that continues. Good. So let's see. What else do we want to say about those early
days? We do want to
days?
say we took a second room at the church after a few years.
Well, yes, it's true.
And busted a hole through the wall, if I remember right. Didn't they take us through?
I think that there was a door there because it was too... I'm not sure now.
Oh, we had to... They took the wall down.
Yeah,
you could pass through those rooms
That's
without
true.
any problem at all.
That's true. Yeah.
We grew, and we had to take over a second room. And everything was okay for a while.
What it ended up being, we moved from that little rainbow room. There was a bigger space that was 2 rooms, I think. We took out the wall, or maybe there was a doorway there. What I do remember was that there was shag carpeting in there. And so Shelley and I, and a bunch of parents, we pulled that carpeting up because there's nothing worse than like carpeting when you're going out. And having those 2 spaces enabled us to go out into the play yard. So
when was it that you left the church and moved into your own space?
That was, after 22 years.
Wow.
But a lot happened in that time period. So I want to kind of wrap up this very early part of being at the church. We moved from 1 helper to 2 helpers a day. parent helpers. It was a responsibility of the parents to come on board. We did. I'll save talking about snack for the next time.
Okay.
The next session.
Oh, that's true. Snack went through some
Snack went through lots of
evolutions as well.
Evolutions, yeah. And it was kind of early on in that time. I mean, even just agreeing with what our philosophy really was, I couldn't articulate it. I remember just crying to Shelley. I said, "No, that's not it. That's Walter. That's not what I'm trying to." And I couldn't articulate it. And so that was a big project for us to do, to be able to do that. I took Shelley down to be with Bev. And so that really, hammered in the idea of it's all about experiential learning. You can talk about it until you're blue in the face, but if you don't have the experience or see something like that in operation, and that really came into play years later when we decided that we needed to have our own space, that whole idea. So we had a program with 2 parent helpers, 2 teachers, a lot of love, a lot of experimenting, beautiful times. And a lot of those families are still involved in some way. And I'm friends with those first kids, including your daughter, who is now a mom. And so lots of them are parents with their own children. And it's just, it's amazing. So I don't know, let's see, what else do you want to say about those earliest? Then you moved away, and then I was very sad for a very long time.
I had to go.
But we also, before you left, we started doing theater.
Oh, yes.
In the church. We did only a little bit of theater in the space where we are now, because we really needed
Children's
to focus. Children's theater. Yeah. So the very first show, I'll have to talk about that in a different podcast. But we did children's theater. We still had
You did Shakespeare.
Yeah, that was later. But those early years were really solidifying the program, making the connection with Bev Boss, and Shelley and I actually, we flew to California to do a Good Stuff for Kids conference with Bev Boss, and that was very, very enlightening. I remember the 2 of us just kind of crying because we thought we were hot stuff. We thought we knew it all. We were like, we know. We're great. We know all of the stuff. And we got called out on it, or we called ourselves out on it because we, going to that conference took us deeper into the philosophy, the whys, and the science backing it up. And so we realized, we don't know everything. And that humbled us and made us open to more and more ideas. Yeah, for sure. So I think that, there we were in the church. We're wrapping up. We're wrapping up this, and we did do our bridging ceremony with some blocks that went out into a butterfly garden, with lots of caterpillars and things.
And what is the bridging ceremony all about?
It's a rite of passage, going over the bridge off into new adventures, moving from seedlings into the
seedlings grow beyond seedling.
Right. And at that time it really was 5. And the age has shifted a little bit over the years.
Older.
Yes, older.
Which is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are parents in Florida, you don't actually have to be in elementary school until you're 7.
Mm-hmm.
So there are parents that have chosen to keep their kids in Sunflower just a little bit longer before somebody assigns homework.
Yeah, they have to sit still and be quiet.
We'll have to talk, and another podcast we'll talk about academics too.
Right,
Academics
lots to talk about.
Preschooler.
Yeah, but here as we're celebrating 30 years, we're just really excited to take that little walk down memory lane, and I'm so glad to have you. Really, Sunflower would not exist if I hadn't been friends with Lora, because I had zero confidence, and she boosted me up and really fed me.
You were perfect. You were the Pied Piper.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us in this
lovely.
First celebration of the 30th anniversary. Thank you, Lora.
Welcome.
Piers McCoy, my dear friend. And, we should bust out a Herman sourdough starter again.
Okay, everyone.
Okay, thank
Till
you.
next time.
We will see you next time. Let us know how you feel. If you have any questions about our 30 years, comments or celebrations, we do have a very fun event coming up on November 4th, our very first Eat, Play, Give celebration, our 30th anniversary, and it will be our annual celebration. So think about joining us if you're local, and there are lots of ways that you can help support us if you aren't local. So check out our website, sunflowercreativearts.org.
Okay.
I want to thank Jill and Rich Schweitzer for their support of the Sunflower Bridge podcast, and we will see you next time.